Hi there, it's the Casual Hammerer, and Games Workshop have released two more previews for the upcoming expansion for Warhammer Age of Sigmar, Forbidden Power. One is focusing on the lore for the expansion, and the other is exclusively focused on the endless spells. So let's have a quick look at them and see what's what. So in the lore post, we've got a few things going on. So like all good things in life, first of all, you should know lore should be enjoyed by the individual in a quiet room with a glass of wine. So I'm just going to cover the key details during this post. I'll leave it up to you to read the full stuff, and I'd recommend waiting for the actual book to come out to read it and enjoy it fully. This post itself just gives an overview. So first things first, we have this cool video that sort of covers the expansion from a lore point of view and sort of at the same time details some of the things that are going on in the expansion. So the first bit you should know is that the story itself for the book will jump back in time a bit to fill in some of the gaps from the Age of Myth, which they sort of hinted at the other day, but it's good to see a confirmation of it. Then they talk about the endless spells, and they show some of them off on the game board setup with some lovely sweeping camera shots. And they confirm that they're all heavily movement based. More details of them later on in this video. The story is set in and around Lethis, in the Realm of Death, and there's a hint that the Storm Vault there has something inside it. I'll again go into more detail on that in a bit. And then we get some more details on how the Storm Vaults themselves actually work. So the short version is the Storm Vaults remain hidden for all this time because Sigmar screwed over Teclis, I think it is, Teclis, and turned his Enlightenment engines, which were used to spread his knowledge between the peoples of the mortal realms, into penumbral engines to hide the vaults and erase them from people's memories. The Storm Vaults themselves, actually, let's move down here so you can actually see the images related to them. The Storm Vaults themselves vary in size, with some of them housing a single artifact, others entire cities. It says here, which is pretty cool. Which means there's lots of potential to use them to do some crazy stuff in your own games, particularly if you're a narrative-based gamer, and you could quite easily have a whole campaign just set within one single Storm Vault. And then it sort of ends this look at the penumbral engines and the Storm Vaults by saying that the various factions of Age of Sigmar are racing to protect, secure, or plunder the vaults for various reasons. So some people are wanting to secure the penumbral engines themselves to try and mask their locations, others want the powerful artifacts hidden within there. And then it goes into some details on how and why the Storm Vaults are appearing now. It's basically, as we know, because of the Necroquake, it screwed up magic in all the realms, and that caused the veil of secrecy around the Storm Vaults to lift. And then we get another big tease that there's either going to be a new army or at least some sort of really cool special character, with this bit at the end here where it asks what would be in store for the mortal realms if, say, the great and ancient evil trapped on the shores of Lake Lethis was unleashed. And that's the Storm Vault that's this whole expansion and the story within it is centered around. So I fully expect when this is released, they'll give it a day or two, and then they'll give some more details on what exactly that thing is in the Storm Vault, and if it unlocks, what it unleashes. I'm assuming it's going to unlock because they keep teasing and hinting at various things coming out of these Storm Vaults. And that's it for the lore post. Like I said, that's just the key details. It's an interesting read if you're interested in the lore side of things. It has some cool gameplay implications wise, particularly the continuing teasers for a new army, which I hope is actually going to come true so I don't sound like a crazy person. We then have the preview for the endless spells and how they work. So they're all empowered when used in the Realm of Death. That's the first thing you need to know. So when you're playing in Shaiish, they're all going to be stronger, better, bigger, badder, all that stuff. So I'll just go through them one by one and cover like the pros and cons of them. So we've got the cool Carrion, the boat dude style one, which is Lorcon the Soul Seeker. I really like the miniature for this, but the actual utility of it is very situational, which is a bit of a shame, but it's an endless spell, and particularly movement-based ones, you don't want them to be super powerful, so I get it in terms of game balance why they've done it this way. So the basic idea is that before you move him, you can have him suck up a whole unit that's within 3 inches of him, so they effectively get on his boat. He then moves 12 to 18 inches, depending on which realm you're playing in, and then spits out that unit at least 9 inches away from an enemy, and within 3 inches of himself. Which is cool. That's a good way to move some slower moving units across the board quite quickly, as it says in the preview here. But one thing you do have to bear in mind with this guy here is that after you move and spit out the people on the boat, he needs to take his fare for ferrying them across the battlefield, and that is the life of one of your models in your unit. So there's a cool little trade-off to using this endless spell. So you can use him, get people across the board, and then you are going to use that one model no matter what. There's no way around it. So if you're using your heavy hitting units that have only got 3 or 4 models, that's going to be a big hit to what you can do with that unit. If it's your cheaper horde style units, you're able to get them across and like maybe secure an objective really early on in the game, or flood the enemy stronghold and all that sort of stuff, which is great. But it is a predatory spell, so it could quite easily be turned against you, and you could have the same thing happening to you on the next turn. But it's endless spells, there's give and take with them all. I'm sort of cool with it. So so you can use him to get a unit to cover a pretty big distance quite quickly. So he's cool. Again, very situational based. I'll probably use him there at some point, just so I can get that model on the table and have an excuse to paint him. Next is sort of like Lorcon the Soulseeker, we have the Soul Scream Bridge, which is similar but different. So unlike Lorcon, who's a Predator Endless spell, this is a fixed summon. So when you cast the spell, you set up one half of the bridge within 6 inches of the caster, and then you can move and set up... Sorry, don't move, you just set up the second half of the bridge within 12 inches of the first half. Unless you're in the realm of Shaiish, where that distance doubles to a meaty 24 inches, which is pretty big on a battlefield. And then after you've set up both halves of the bridge, when it's the movement phase, you can move any units, that's multiple units, not just a single unit, within 6 inches of the bridge, across the bridge, and set them up at the other side, at least as long as they're at least 9 inches away from any enemies. It also has a nice little -1 bravery to enemies within it as well. This is a pretty powerful endless spell, particularly if you're playing in the realm of Shaiish, and it's going to be great to create funnels to control the map, because once it's there, it's down there until it gets dispelled by the enemy. And yeah, when you're playing Shaiish in particular, you're able to cover great distances in no time at all, because you can cast this, get it set up where all your units are, send multiple units through it, charge them and get into the fight straight away, secure those objectives, do all the cool stuff, and basically control the battlefield from a fixed point, which is great. Personally, this is probably my favourite endless spell in the set. It looks cool and it's got a great use, and it's going to be probably featured in a lot of my army lists going forward, at least for the time being, until I play somebody who inevitably finds a way to counter it in some fashion. Then we have the Horrorghast, which is the face of Nagash one. This one's pretty good. I'd say it's only... Actually, I'll bring up the war scroll for this one. I'd say it's only really useful if you're combining it with other units that have similar effects. The main effect for this one is the -1 bravery for characters and models within it. Within 12 inches of this model. If you're playing in Shaiish, that's -2, which is really good. If they're within 6 inches, though. And then, because it's predatory, you can move it around the board, so you can keep moving it into those really useful mounds of enemies and really screw up their plans. But like it says here, it recommends combining it with other bravery manipulating abilities, like the ones where it says here, like on the Celestant Prime, Archaon, Lady Islander, and the Iron Guts. And I think because it's minus to bravery, it doesn't affect death models, so probably quite useful for Nighthawk armies in particular. And then the final one is the Shards of Valagar. We'll go for that reading. Shards of Valagar. And despite this one being one of the cooler looking endless spells in the set, I can't see myself using this that often. Mainly because it's really useful, but it has one big downside. Probably because it is so useful. So similar to the bridge, you're setting up one half and then the other half a certain distance away from it. And this is a movement blocker, endless spell, so the basic idea is that it halves the movement of any unit sort of trapped between the two models of the endless spell, and it also gives -1 to hit rolls of any ensnared units by the spell, which is really good. However, the big con to this is that when you get to the battle phase, both players roll off to see who controls the endless spell. If you lose control of the endless spell, your opponent can remove one half of it off the board and put it down elsewhere as long as it's within the correct distance, which means if you lose control of it, your opponent is likely to move it so it ensnares one of your units, giving you the -1 to hit rolls instead of them. It's a roll-off, so there are ways to mitigate that, but it's a standard roll-off, so it's essentially a 50-50 chance of losing control of the endless spell at the key point where you want it to be ensnaring your enemies. So yeah, that's the one that I'm quite skeptical of using myself, but we'll see. And yeah, that's it for these two previews. Sped through them nice and quickly. So the lore for the expansion seems really exciting. It feels like another big reveal is going to happen, like I keep saying. It feels like it's building up to something substantial, which is good. Age of Sigmar, one of the reasons why I love it as a game is that we have these nice ebbs and flows to announcements for the game, where we'll have a big release like the Gloomspike Gits and then a small trickle of newer things, and it'll build up and spike to something like the Loon Curse box, and then it'll drop again, and we'll get hints of Warcry, which is going to be the next big sort of side game project for the setting. But this feels like it's building up to something significant for the core game, and they're just holding back ever so slightly on doing that big reveal until it's just about right, and people like me are overly excited, and we get super excited, and we throw all our money at the screens when they go, look, here's a new faction. Like I said, I really want Clockwork Skellybobs, but we'll see. And yeah, that's it for these two previews. They keep saying they're going to do more, and I imagine they will. We're halfway through the week. There's going to be a couple more before pre-orders go up at the weekend. So I'll try and do videos on them as and when they drop. But for now, thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video, and also please give any feedback as well. Always looking for feedback for these videos, and just to know that people are watching and appreciating what I'm doing. So yeah, thanks for watching.